Hello everyone! Today we are going to show you something truly special, the suspension system of a classic oldtimer car. Please excuse my accent, our company has German roots and my English is not perfect, it's not good, but I will do my best to explain everything clearly. We have received a set of rear Nivomat shock absorbers from a Mercedes-Benz SL R107. This model was produced between 1971 and 1989. The same suspension system was also used in the Mercedes S-Class W126, which was the flagship model of Mercedes from up to 1991. Let's start with few important facts about this suspension. These shock absorbers are manufactured by Zex and are known as Nivomat, or as Zex called it, Super Touring suspension. They are hydropneumatic shock absorbers based on the principle similar to the hydraulic suspension used by Citroën. It's important to understand that a standard suspension system, the right height of the vehicle is determined by the springs, not the shock absorbers. When the car is loaded, it naturally lowers, which affects handling and stability. The purpose of the Nivomat system is to compensate for this. It maintains the correct right height automatically. In other words, inside a single unit we have both a shock absorber for damping and hydraulic mechanism that adjusts the vehicle height. The shock absorber is supplied with oil from external hydraulic pump, and by changing its pressure we can change the static load characteristics. Now, something very important. These shock absorbers are no longer in production. If you want to buy a brand new original unit, it is not possible. So, if you want to preserve the collector value of your car, the only real option is to repair the original components. Here you can see the shock absorber mounted on our test bench. To properly test it, we are combining two systems. One is a dyno bench that measures the damping performance of the shock absorber, and the other is our custom hydraulic test bench, this here. On the hydraulic test bench, we have installed a hydraulic pump from a Mercedes active body control systems. It can generate up to 200 bar of pressure, allowing us to simulate a real working conditions. We also added a hydraulic accumulator, or as the Germans call it, a Druckspeicher. This component is extremely important and we will show you later why. The customer's complaint is oil leakage. These shock absorbers are extremely robust and rarely produce noise. The most common issue is leakage, not knocking. Now we start the test bench and dyno. We have a good dyno diagram, but now we can see the oil here. It leaks very hard. We have clear system failure, and we stop our hydraulic test bench. Now we will open it and show you why it leaks. Now, let's take a look inside. This is the piston rod and the working piston, the main dampening element, and here is the guide. The main cause of the leakage. It seals the oil inside in the system. These shock absorbers almost never fail in the piston itself. The problem is always in the guide and its sealing. The key difference between a standard shock absorber and a hydraulic one is exactly this sealing system. Standard shock absorber use rubber HNBR seals, while hydraulic systems typically use Teflon-based seals. Each type has its advantages. And here comes the tricky part. At first glance, these systems look simple to repair, but in reality, almost no one manages to repair them properly. After most repairs, they start leaking again within a few months. No matter what seals you install, they usually fail after 6 or 7 months. Why? Because of the extreme number of working cycles. A hydraulic cylinder on a forklift, for example, has a far fewer cycles compared to the shock absorber. The difference is 1 to 100 or even more. A car shock absorber operates over 100 times more cycles than a standard hydraulic system. Another critical factor is the pressure spikes. Most hydraulic systems operate at high pressure but stable pressure. In a car, when you hit a sharp bump, the shock absorber experiences sudden pressure spikes. These spikes can overload the seal and cause leakage. So the seal in Nivomat shock absorber must withstand extreme pressure, pressure spikes, very high frequency, and over 100 million cycles. This is what makes these shock absorbers so unique. After extensive research and testing, we finally found German-made seals that exceed the original specifications, produced by the same manufacturer as the OEM components. After our repair, leakage is no longer an issue. Now, back to the dyno test. We run several tests for relatively at low pressure, around 30 bar. As you can see, the shock absorber works perfectly. Every hydropneumatic system must have a properly functioning accumulator. The hydroaccumulator keeps the system pressurized and compensates for volume change caused by the piston movement and piston rod movement. It also absorbs pressure spikes. Now we will simulate a faulty accumulator. Now we simulate a faulty pressure accumulator. You can see immediately the diagram change and how unstable the pressure becomes. So that's why it's extremely important to always use high quality, properly functioning accumulators with correct nitrogen pressure. Now we move to one of the most important demonstrations, the static load test. At this moment, the system is at zero pressure. As you can see, the shock absorber produced no force at all. and the static load is exactly null, 0 kilograms. In this state, it behaves like a normal shock absorber without any lifting capability. Now we begin to increase the oil pressure. As the pressure rises, you can clearly see how the static load starts to increase step by step. This is the key principle of the Nivomat system. The internal hydraulic mechanism converts oil pressure into mechanical lifting force. In other words, the shock absorber starts working not only as damping element but also as hydraulic actuator. We continue to increase the pressure and we exceed 400 kilograms of load from a single shock absorber. This is extremely important. This force is what lifts the rear of the vehicle back to its correct right height when the car is loaded. So instead of the car sagging underweight, the Nivomat system compensates automatically by generating lifting force through hydraulic pressure. That's why the system is so advanced for its time. It combines comfort, stability, and self-leveling in a completely mechanical hydraulical way without electronics. Finally, we test the repaired unit at over 200 bar, well above its normal operating pressure. We perform this extreme test to ensure the shock absorber not only works perfectly, but also withstands pressure far beyond factory specifications. This is what a real professional repair looks like. 200 bars and no leaks. If you enjoyed this video, try to find similar content online. You will see that nobody shows this at this level of detail. We are proud to be specialists in this field and proud of the solutions we provide. Thank you for watching and see you the next video.